And when you're browning meats, please understand, if you get your pan really good and hot first, then throw in the meat. Please do not flour the meat. You want to brown the sugar that is in the meat itself. And that's where you get caramel color, you see? This works beautifully if you have gas range. I'm going to deglaze the pan now. Fancy word for taking out the brown goodness. The little red wine. Oh, I love it. If you have a gas range, you can have so much fun with it. So much fun. I'll move this aside. I want to show you something else. I have it's going to surprise you. It really tickles me. I have some pasta, and I want to make pasta Mornay. Pasta with Mornay sauce. So I'm going to put the cheese sauce on top of my pasta. There. Now normally, well, I better remember the cheese, huh? Where's the cheese? Here we go. Normally you would put this under a broiler in your electric oven and stand around for a while until it browns. Let me show you something. This is a salamander, and look what's inside. You see? A salamander means that you have a burner that will broil for you, or you can also use it as a griddle. And a salamander is called such because it's an oven operated by fire. And in the old days, there was a medieval creature called the salamander. And he looked like a little lizard, you see, but he could live in fire. And that's what this means. So you can put things in here and broil, or put them in with a medieval creature that would not be consumed by fire. Let me show what you can do with meat. Now, I have in my salamander, my broiler, a surprise for Channing and Jason, old hamburger mouths, both of them. Good lean hamburger that I've ground myself, and I mixed into it. Do you remember the mirepoix I told you to make and put in your refrigerator so that you could use it for spicing and herbing foods during the week, seasoning, you see? Nothing but vegetables and herbs. I mixed that with some hamburger, molded it into cakes, and put it under the salamander. Look at this. There. Now, we're talking serious professional restaurant work. It'll cook very quickly on the outside so that you have a nice, lean, and rare patty on the inside. Absolutely gorgeous food. I would not hesitate to serve this to the most discriminating eater, even though it is very high-class hamburger. And I don't know of another company that has such a thing. I don't know where you're going to find one other than good old KitchenAid. You know, leave it to them. I love it. I just love it. Now, another thing you can do in the way of grinding meat is to make your own Italian sausage, because the stuff you get at the market is simply full of pig fat. You don't need it. I'm using the smaller blade this time on my meat grinder, so I'll get a nice fine sausage. And incidentally, you notice this is a smaller machine. Well, it's only 2 cups smaller. The motor's just about the same size, and it's very powerful, so don't worry about whether or not this can do it. Now, for meat, I'm using a pork butt roast or pork shoulder. You see, it's much leaner, and you can even trim out more fat that way. Cut it into long sticks, and we'll grind it up right away. This is so simple. Feed her on through. There we go. There we are. Now, for seasonings, we can change our recipes easily with sausage. You got all sorts of things you can do. If you want breakfast sausage, then of course you use sage, but I want an Italian sausage. So what I'm going to use is a bit of ground fennel seed. Funicchio, the Italians call it. I threw a whole bottle of this in my food processor and ground it up beautifully. There, that's fine. If it's fresh, it's going to taste much better to you. Bottled ground spices are for the birds. I want some red chili flakes. Just a handful. Don't ask me how much. It depends on how much meat you have here. And a couple of bay leaves, maybe 2 or 3 for a couple pounds of meat. Very Italian, you know, the bays. Have you ever tried to grow your own bay tree? I have one in my yard in Seattle, Tacoma. Wonderful. And let's see, we need some pepper and some salt. The salt will act as a mild preservative. That in the old days, of course, that's what you did with salt, was to preserve meat with it. But we don't need that. Just a tiny bit will be fine. And now, some red wine. Can you believe this? Just throw in some red wine. Gives it a wonderful flavor. And I'm adding olive oil because I have very little fat in this. And it's fat that makes sausage juicy. So I'm using a good vegetable product, olive oil instead, you see. And finally, some of the cheese that we've just grated. Everything's fresh, and you can do all of this in very little time. Now, mix that up. Oh, yes, use your hands. Mix that up, and look at the texture. And I want to compare that with a sausage that I just bought at the supermarket. Let's see what happens. Look at the fat. Look at the fat. You just don't need it. You do not need it. Now, if you want to put the bulk sausage into a casing, then you simply attach a sausage stuffer onto your machine. There's nothing to it. But the issue here is, remember, you don't want the fat. Now, let me show you some other things that you can do with your food processor. I love these machines. What we have here is an electric knife, that goes back to the old days. There. I'm going to run a cucumber through this because I want nice thin slices. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this. Are we talking pain? Not at all. As a matter of fact, we're talking very serious beauty. I love these machines because you can cook lickety-split and have a good time at it. That's important. Look, isn't that nice? There's some other blades that come with this. I might as well show them to you now. Remember, we've already used the cheese shredder. You can do a julienne or a blade lickety-split for carrots or anything else you like. Yes, I always leave the peel on my potatoes, whether I'm making salad or French fries, and there are several different thicknesses in the slicing blade. Now, the other one, the regular working blade, is simply a chopper. And I want to make a quick, well, it's something called poor man's caviar. The kind of thing that you don't have to eat because you're poor, but because it's delicious. I have seeded or pitted some olives. This is a Greek olive, and the other one is a dried Italian. See, it's much smaller. It's a beautiful olive. I've pitted some of those, and we're just going to throw them into the old machine here. Here's, a cup or so of Greek olives. They're very salty, but are they good. And a cup or so of pitted Italian olives. They're very oily and very, very rich. Now, this doesn't look like caviar yet, but wait till you see what's next. Then we're going to add some anchovy. Just throw all this in. That's a can of anchovy packed out in some paper towels so that you don't have a lot of excess oil, right? And some garlic, which we've already chopped up ahead of time, you see, in our machine. How much garlic? Well, good Lord. How about half a tablespoon? That should be plenty. And a little bit of olive oil. Just enough to get this working properly. And we're going to add some fresh cracked pepper. Grind that up. And it's served on toast. When you have a cocktail party, please serve a little bit of dry sherry and a few simple canapes or simple hors d'oeuvres so that people can have a good time without killing themselves with too much food. Let's see what happens. Don't grind this too long now. I'm using the pulse blade. You see, you cannot do this. There, we're done. You cannot do this with a great big food processor because it simply throws things around. This KitchenAid is a middle size. The little bitty one would turn this into mud, and the great big one wouldn't even work. So let me get a cracker and see what we have in terms of, well, it even looks like caviar. Poor man's caviar, you see? It even looks like caviar. Now we'll give it the test. Terrific. Now, by this time, you've come to understand that these machines of our time are really the servants of the old days. They'll do all the drudgery work, and it's a blessing to have one. One of the most difficult jobs that I used to have in the restaurant was trying to make enough salad for enough people in a hurry. In the old days, they used to have a machine that was a cone shredder, and we used to work with it by hand. KitchenAid is simply put one of these together for your mixer, and it works beautifully. Here's the thin blade slicer, or the thin slicer you see for vegetables. Lock her into place and simply put it in the old machine here. And I want to make salad for a whole bunch of people. There we go. By salad, I mean I want to slice up a bunch of cucumbers, for instance. So just grab a good cucumber. Let's see, this one looks pretty good. Take off the end, and in we go here. This is fun for me because it beats work, you know? The advantage here is that you can go on and on and on. You don't have to change bowls. Just put it underneath the thing and you can... I once ran 8 cases of zucchini through one of these machines for 800 people for a big church convention in Tacoma. 800 people! And I fed them out of one of these machines. It's a scream. Or try this one. That'll make a good salad. Or try this one. Just slice up a batch of cucumbers and marinate them with a good vinaigrette salad dressing, and that's your salad. Oh, that's good. A lot of vinegar and a little bit of dill, and it'll taste very much like what the kosher cook would call a new pickle. Easy to do, and you can make a bowl this big if you want without any difficulty at all. Now, a dessert that you're not going to believe because you're not going to think that this works. It's an old dessert from colonial times, and you have to whip for a long time. So I'm going to be using a wire whip. This is like a French balloon whip, you see. Simply put it on the mixer and it'll go like crazy for you. I hesitate to tell you to do this with a normal machine because it takes a long time to whip this, and on a KitchenAid, it's very, very simple. The KitchenAid can do this, but not everyone can, so don't be disappointed if yours doesn't come up, but mine will. 2½ cups of whipping cream. We'll get that started right away, and then I'll give you the parts of the recipe that are going to surprise you, because you're not going to think this is going to work. There, get the cream going. 2½ cups of good whipping cream. Now, I'm going to measure out 1 cup of Rhine wine or a good Riesling. There it is. And add to that 1/2 cup of dry sherry. Yes, we're talking colonial cooking. Now, there's a reason behind this dish. It's a dessert, all right, but it's full of alcohol because they didn't have refrigeration. Remember what I said about the refrigerator? Well, here's a dish that really sat around and kind of took care of itself. To my wine now, sherry and Rhine wine, I'm going to add the juice of 1½ lemons and the grated peel of 1½ lemons. You see? Just grate it right off. All right, the juice and the peel of 1½ lemons into the 1½ cups of wine. 1 cup of Rhine wine, ½ cup of dry sherry. Now, the cream will come up. This takes a long time to whip, but it's fun to watch. The cream will come up, and then you add the wine and lemon peel and lemon juice to this, and then add 1/2 pound of powdered sugar. There we go. And let this go. It's going to take about 10 minutes before you'll have something that I'll show you in a second here. Come on, powdered sugar, get in there. There. You'll have some stuff all over your kitchen if you don't have a shield on this. That's why I'm particularly fond of this machine, because you can do French breads or anything with it and not get flour all over the place, unless, of course, you're a slob like I am. But it doesn't throw it out of the bowl. Just spill it on the counter. That's me. There you go. Let this whip now for about 10 minutes, and it will set up. Let me show you what happens. It's really very exciting because it's an interesting lesson for your children in old desserts. This goes back to colonial times. You can still see them making this in the kitchens in colonial Williamsburg. This is called a syllabub. Now, why is it called a syllabub? Because, well, let me show you here. I've got a whole tray of these ready. Because after about 24 hours, the cream and wine separate. And you remember the term syllable has something to do with various parts in a word. Well, look at this. It makes a colossal dessert, and it's wonderfully easy to do, providing you have good equipment and a good machine. There. Now, what we've tried to talk about today, really simple enough. First of all, get yourself organized. Try and plan on cooking 1 day a week seriously so that you can enjoy yourself. Secondly, set up your kitchen in such a way that you have stations for everyone in the family to cook, or your friends. You can have dinner parties in which you prepare together. Thirdly, please remember that the purchasing of cheap cooking equipment always remains the same. It was cheap when you bought it. It's going to be cheap when you throw it away. Buy quality so that you can relax and have a good time. I'm particularly fond of the friends I've told you about today. KitchenAid's been in business since 1919, and they've always proven themselves to me. I know it's quality, and I know it's going to last. So in the long run, it's a frugal investment. Now, what's going to happen in the future? I really don't know. We do know that kitchens in the future are going to be using temperatures of cold for cooking as well as temperatures of heat. Isn't that fascinating? We know that there'll be new processes for preserving foods, lettuce that you won't even refrigerate. And we know that we're probably going to decentralize the kitchen, and you're going to have nooks and crannies all over your house for cooking. All sorts of things are going to go on. I don't know. Maybe you're going to have one of these in several different rooms. In any case, I want you to enjoy yourself, eat good food, and please cook from scratch as often as possible, and do it in joyful surroundings so that you can have a good time. You're really worth that. Until I see you again, this is the Frugal Gourmet. I bid you peace. Bye-bye.